Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Five years ago, the Power of We Symposium was created to provide a platform for kids from all sectors where they could have a safe and comfortable environment in which to share both their joys and concerns. The Power of We Symposium is proud to have served over 250 kids throughout Romania when we took our mission global back in May of 2023. Now, two teams of amazing volunteers from both the U.S. and Romania embarked on an 8-day Legacy of Hope tour, bringing encouragement and hope to not only the kids of Romania, but also the adults who support them, and also to over 100 kids here in the U.S. who contributed handwritten letters of hope to our Romania mission of 2023. Now, this year, we are proud to provide this opportunity yet again in October, and we are super excited to up our game. New venue, 750 kids this time, and we want to see you there. We're looking forward to meeting you in person at this year's event, which promises, as always, incredible speakers, amazing content, and of course, some of the greatest kids on the planet. So, mark your calendars for October 24th, and we'll see you here in Chicagoland for the Power of We Symposium 2024. This year's theme is Always Together, Never Alone. Tickets are available now on Eventbrite or at powerofwesymposium.com. Welcome, everybody. How you doing? It is Dr. Lauren. I am the... what am I today? I'm so excited, number one. I forget who I am because I'm so excited about today's 90-minute television special. I am the founder of the Trajectory Television Network and Trajectory Magazine, but also executive producer for E360 Television. And we are always so thrilled, so excited, but most importantly, very honored to be able to share our platforms with various people from around the globe who we feel have come to our attention or brought something to our attention that we know the world needs to pay more attention to. Today is one of those days. We are so excited to bring you this 90-minute special, which speaks to survivors overcomers, those who have made it through something to get to the place where they can offer not just the stories that we all have. I mean those stories about the poison. But today you're going to hear what some people have done to use that poison and have turned it and created themselves something for you known as an antidote. In order to have the antidote to any poison, you first need the poison. And today we're going to talk to some survivors of trauma and all sorts of things that a lot of you may think there's no way I could make it through it. But after today, you're going to know you can. So sit back, share this out with a friend. I said, oh, they're coming in. 207 of you. Share this out. It is free. Oh, and it came to my attention during the opener. We're working on it. We're going to drop a link. You're going to see it pop on your screen. We want you to all send your people over to YouTube because Facebook is experiencing some things right now, and we're not live on all the Facebook platforms we thought we would be, but we are on the E360 television network. If you go down to the Trajectory channel, you'll find it live there, and also you will find it on YouTube at Lauren Michaels Harris YouTube, live on there. So we're going to put that up for you. In the meantime, get ready. There's a group of people waiting to change your life. Here we go. Welcome to the show.
Hello, and a very warm welcome to today's show, Beyond Victimhood, Stories of Survival and Empowerment. My name is Aga Oke, and I'm your host. And if we've never met before, I am a holistic coach and I'm an ancestral healing specialist. So, I work and help courageous souls to break free from the chain of their ancestral wound. Today's topic, victim mentality. It is very close to my heart. I have been stuck in this mindset for many years, waiting for my knight in shining armor to come and save me and take all my pain away. Everything changed for me the day I realized that I was the one who could save myself. And my guests today, they have all overcame victim mentality. And what more I can say about that? Victim mentality is a very sneaky energy that can sneak into your life, no matter your background, no matter your status, no matter where you come from. And it can start mission distraction. So I have invited 5 remarkable souls who will share with us today, wherever you are in the world, how come they have found themselves in a victim mentality mindset and what helped them overcome that. Before I invite them to the stage, let's play for you a quick video of what a victim mentality is. Right. Not sure what's happened.
receive it, especially when it comes from someone who have your best interest at heart. So before you dismiss our words altogether, it might be good to take the time to reflect on them first. Licensed therapist Dr. Vicky Botnick defines victim mentality as a state of mind wherein a person identifies themselves as a victim of circumstances or other people, even when untrue. Thus, people with this type of outlook avoid taking responsibility for their own actions and feel that they have no control over what happens to them. With that said, here are 6 signs, according to experts, that victim mentality may be ruining your life. Learned helplessness. People with a victim mentality view themselves as powerless and at the mercy of others, or life in general. The mindset that we're unable to control, impact, or change our circumstances is what is known as learned helplessness. According to licensed clinical psychologist Dr. Karen Gepp, people afflicted with learned helplessness stop trying to overcome the challenges they face and instead resort to blaming everyone else around them for their misfortunes and mistakes. So if you often find yourself complaining all the time whenever something goes wrong, but without reflecting first on the part you may have played, then you may be struggling with a victim mentality. False proof of anger. According to counselor Andrea M. Darcy and therapist Dr. Sherry Jacobson, people who live their life from a victim mindset tend to spend a lot of time suffering in silence and repressing their rage. They are rarely visibly angry, but are convinced that those around them are always upset or angry with them. They read too much into every little thing and take everything too personally, taking it as false proof that everyone else is against them as a way to reinforce their view that they are helpless victims of their own circumstances. Unrealistic expectations. Similar to the last point, those with a victim mentality also expect other people to just know how they feel and give them consideration all the time. For example, when someone hurts their feelings without meaning to, they automatically assume it was intentional. But they don't usually communicate it to the other person because they unrealistically expect them to just know it. And according to Dr. Karen Gepp, this may lead to them keeping score in relationships, which can also lead to difficulty with intimacy and trust. Over-explaining yourself. Another sign that you may have a victim mentality, according to Andrea Darcy and Dr. Sherry Jacobson, is you're likely to over-explain the story whenever a conflict arises. You may also talk about things that happened a long time ago and get hung up on the past. Why? Because those trapped in a victim mindset are constantly seeking proof that they did nothing wrong and everyone else is at fault instead. So they can sometimes have a very warped sense of logic just to justify their passivity and inaction. Negative outlook. Do you believe that the world is a dangerous place? That other people are too self-interested or antagonistic towards you? And if so, do you think of yourself as someone who can't fend for themselves or achieve their goals because of it? If so, such negative self-talk is most likely the result of having a self-victimizing viewpoint, says mental health journalist Crystal Rapole and psychologist Dr. Timothy J. Legg. And this way of thinking often gives way to catastrophizing beliefs such as, everything bad happens to me and I can't do anything about it. That may be hurting your self-esteem, not coping with stress. Finally, mental health and wellness coach Elia Cooks Campbell explains that having a victim mentality makes it more difficult for us to cope with stress because viewing ourselves as the victim all the time erodes our self-confidence and takes a toll on our emotional well-being, often causing a lot of frustration, anger, and resentment. So when stressful things happen, you probably can't think straight. You may also have angry outbursts from time to time, feel the need to socially withdraw and self-isolate, and struggle with feelings of loneliness and depression. Having a victim mentality can also make it difficult for us to seek help or support from others because it makes us wary of their intentions. So, do you relate to any of the things we've mentioned here? Did going through this list help you realize some of the ways you may be trapped in a victim mentality? Answering yes may feel shameful or overwhelming, but recognizing that you're living your life from this negative state of mind is an important first step to take in moving towards empowerment and away from victimhood. The change isn't likely to come easily or quickly, but increasing your self-awareness, challenging negative self-talk with self-compassion, and practicing accountability can make a great difference in your life, your relationships, and your mental health. It's also worth noting that a victim mentality is often an unhealthy way of coping with unhealed trauma.
That's right. So now we're going to bring to the stage our guest speakers and hear their own definition of victim mentality. My first guest, all the way from Luxembourg, she was an orphan, survived a narcissistic ex-husband and cancer, not once but twice. Today, she's a resilience life coach, helping women to rise stronger and transform their lives. Let's welcome Amanda Wakefield.
Hi, Aga. Thank you for having me here.
Hi, how are you?
I'm really well, thanks. Bit cold here in Luxembourg, but okay, it's winter.
Yes. Right, Amanda, thank you so much for joining this transforming program. Please introduce yourself briefly and share with us your own definition of victim mentality.
Sure. So, as you have already introduced me, so I'm Amanda Wakefield. As you can probably hear, I am actually British, but I do live in Luxembourg. I've lived here for 27 years now. So I'm what is classified as an expat. I'm a mum, I'm a resilience life coach, and yes, my journey has been full of a lot of difficulties, should we say. And what I would say about the victim mentality, because it did take me quite some time to come out of it. So as you've rightly said, I am an orphan. I lost my mum and my dad quite early on in my life. And what happened is I felt life was happening to me rather than for me. And that mindset kept me stuck in the pain of the past. So I was sort of focusing always on that past trauma because it was a trauma, and the numbness. I didn't feel anything. There was so many emotions. I didn't feel any emotions, if you can see what I mean. It was so complex. So this is what quite often happens, as the video just displayed, that it is it's natural that we feel like a victim after trauma. The trouble is when we stay in that mindset, that stops us from reclaiming our control. It stops us from reclaiming our voice. And ultimately, if we don't use our control and our voice, it's going to control our future. So it's a debilitating mindset to be in, although it's understandable. So it's quite difficult to sometimes get out of that, especially if you're on your own.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Amanda. Second guest of mine, he is an American, a co-parenting coach, and growing up, he experienced forgotten child syndrome and has been numbing his pain in early adolescence. So let's welcome to the stage JP Marsh.
Hi, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, mine was more childhood trauma, learned behavior, and which happens quite a bit. And so I've gotten out of it, or I'm trying to break generational curses, which learned behaviors, because my parents did the best they could with the tools that they had, which may or may not have been, the best, but they did what they could. And so being aware enough of my own actions that I was always playing the victim, learned how to be the victim, needed to identify with the world against me rather than accepting the reality that I was creating every day. And so, the victim mentality is kind of a sneaky thing, because like drugs, alcohol, or anything else, you become addicted to the sympathy, you become addicted to the Debbie Downer sort of way of life, which is, kicks over dominoes and booby traps to keep you in a cycle of doing that, because that's your thought process, your mentality. If you're first, the pessimism, the feeding off the sympathy, not being aware that your actions, your thoughts control your reality. And so you're letting everything externally dictate your reality, which is going to keep you where you are, because, it's easier to be in your comfort zone than to not. And once you get comfortable being the victim and not moving forward, setting goals, completing goals, always thinking everything's against you, you just get stuck, and then it becomes habit, and then it becomes life.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to bring another guest to share with us what victim mentality means to them. And she experienced quite a lot growing up. She was born in a Soviet bloc in 70s, and she is a blend of many bloodlines and cultures. Let's welcome Ala Amanjot, Kundalini teacher and trainer based in the UK. Hi Ala, how are you?
Hi everyone. Hi Aga, and thanks Dr. Lauren. Lovely to meet you guys, Amanda and JP. It's like great to have you all and be part of this. And yes, I was born in a Soviet bloc, which I'll tell you a bit more a bit down the line. But as a definition of the victim mentality, in my view, it's when someone consistently blames others for everything that happens to them, whether it's good or bad, and avoids taking personal responsibility for their own actions or circumstances. So, are you a good blamer? I definitely was one. And these things are still happening for me. But, when you become self-aware and you take responsibility and your power back, and you think like, oh my God, I've got all this power. I can decide for myself. So yeah, this is from me. You're on mute, Aga.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Right now, I hope you are ready for a completely different perspective, because my next guest will surely blow your minds off. And he is a best-selling author of a dozen books in the area of mental performance and personal mastery, currently traveling all around the world. Let's welcome Cam Knight.
Thank you very much for having me on and for putting this together. I know it takes a lot of time and effort, so I'm very appreciative for you to bring us all on. And so I want to start by saying that, my trauma runs deep. It has many layers. First, I come from a very poor part of a very poor country, so it was rough. And second, I grew up with the religion forced down my throat, so I had a lot of religious trauma. And third, I can't say I had the worst parents in the world, but they were far from good. And more importantly, my whole life, I had severe sensitivity to processed food, essentially anything that's not whole or organic. And being fed processed food from the time I was young created a lot of mental and emotional challenges. So my thoughts raced out of control, my emotions cycled intensely, and all of this made for a real challenge to engage and interact with the outside world. And of course, because of all of this, I fall into victimhood. And so for me, victim is a feeling of helpless, hopeless, powerless, and oppressed. And because we feel that way, we think we don't really have much say in our life and that we're at the mercy of events outside of our control. And that's essentially how I felt and lived my life. But more importantly, I realized that victimhood was actually a response. It was actually an automatic response to situations or events. So if things weren't going right for me, my mind would just trigger these feelings of why me? Why doesn't anything work? Everyone has the longer end of the stick. And when we can understand that it's not actually a thinking, but it's more of a response, then we are in a better position to make the necessary changes that will help us get the result that we ultimately want.
Thank you so much, Cam. And for our last but definitely not least guest, we've got a past life regression expert. She holds a very strong connection with spirit, and her passion is to help others heal and reclaim their power. Definitely got that in common. She was born in Latvia but lives in Ireland. Please welcome Elsa Stephanie.
Hello, guys. Good evening. Aga, thank you so much for having me. And it's such a pleasure to be part of this amazing program tonight. So yeah, my perspective to victimhood is it's basically based on my really deep trauma since I was a little girl. First of it, because my parents were struggling financially when we were growing up myself, and as the life went on, there was so much refuse at school from other kids, and I was married very young, and um, the relationships with my first husband turned out really toxic, and it was so much verbal abuse and physical abuse, loss of my of miscarriage basically of the child that I never seen. So that was a big thing for me, and losing my brother 10 years ago, that was kind of end of everything. So all my life I felt everything is taken away from me. I never felt that life is something nice. So I could really describe my whole past like a big dark night of soul. Of course, there was a nice times and a great moments, but like to me, I felt everything being taken away from me. And I was always blaming God, blaming others. Why it's me? Why? Because it was so painful, and it was so painful to lose something. It was just. I was thinking life is so hard. Life is actually, it's something really difficult. And there have been times when I actually felt very suicidal, because I just didn't want to be here. But yeah, so to me, victim victimhood is something that it's really really painful, that you think that everything is taken away from you, and it's like never ending story. There is no light in that tunnel. That's how I felt all my life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elsa. Right, so today's show is called Beyond Victimhood, Stories of Survival and Empowerment. And in this first stage, we are going to dive deep into what all of my guests survived and how their trauma enabled victim mentality to enter their lives. So, first, let's welcome back Amanda and hear her story.
Thank you, Aga. Thank you. So, yeah, my story is, I'm told it's quite unique. So, when I was growing up in the north of England, my mum had breast cancer. And this meant that, we go back to the 80s, and she was in and out of hospital a lot. And because of that, my emotional bond with my mum didn't really form very well. And then she unfortunately died when I was just 13 years old. And then my father got involved with another lady. And then I was 15 years old and I knew everything about the world. Didn't like this lady, and I decided that I was going to leave home. Not long after I left home, my father was unfortunately killed in a car accident along with this lady. So at the age of 17, I was an orphan, and I had no job, I had no income, and I didn't know what to do in my life. And I was so caught up in being in this grief that I didn't know what was happening in my life, and I was just surviving every day. And unfortunately, I walked into a domestically violent relationship. I had a couple of children with this gentleman, and after a while, I thought, I know this isn't right and it's not acceptable. So I actually walked out of that relationship. But what I did is I jumped from the frying pan into the fire, and I met a narcissistic gentleman. And this relationship brought me to Luxembourg. I had 2 children with him. And this relationship, because I was in this victim mentality, I said to myself, I cannot have another broken marriage, and I have to do whatever it takes to make it work. And in deciding to do whatever it was going to take to make it work, I completely and utterly buried every single part of me. And then what happened is I got cancer. My body was telling me it can't take it anymore. You're going to have to do something about it. I struggled through that cancer, and it was when I had my second bout of cancer, I made the choice to leave that relationship. Literally 5 days out post-op. So I decided that I was going to have to do this on my own. So I continued raising my 4 daughters on my own. As you can see, you know, most men who are domestically violent or narcissistic don't financially provide for their children. So I decided that I was going to have to climb the corporate ladder. So I did that as well. And this pushed to the edge. It really did. I didn't know I had.
Right, so now let's hear the story of JP.
Mine is a bit, yeah. I mean, so I guess half my life, most of my life, you know, growing up certain ways, you know, one thing snowballed into another, and then it was a perpetual victim of this or that, or poor me, with, you know, numbing myself and self-destructing, self-sabotaging, and all of those things through my 20s. But one of the bigger ones happened in my early 30s, not long after my daughter was born. Her mother and I were not getting along, you know, and so she just turned 2, and it was, you know, either break up, split up, or stick it out until she was basically going to be an adult. So either be unhappy for the next, 15, 20 years, or, make the decision to break it up. So then, trying to make that decision, go through that trauma and baggage and grief. I did the same thing that everybody does. When you're starting over, I moved out and I moved into my folks' house. And when you live in a small town in, America, rural areas, that's what you do. And get to my parents' house, starting to try to grasp the idea of being a single father to a 2-year-old. And 2 weeks after that, my dad died unexpectedly. And so I had the breakup guilt, trying to accept the reality of being a single father and this whole new everything. Then my dad dies. So then I have that grief stacked on top of it, but also I can't escape my mom's grief because I'm trapped in the house. So I can't, go home and grieve on my own. I'm sort of stuck in this whirlwind, and it was really easy to fall into, a depression and a funk. And, for a while it was poor me, poor this, everything's against me, the world sucks, scared to go outside. Basically all I did was work and hang out with my daughter. And now, I live a peaceful life. Everything's good. But, that was the hard thing to get through, the getting on my feet again, going out again, meeting new people, being around different friends, starting over, accepting, having the acceptance and awareness to change my thought patterns, change my situation, change my reality, stop looking at everything as a pessimist and be more optimistic and see the learning experiences, things I can learn from the situations, the things that I can grow from rather than dwell on. And so that's sort of mine in a nutshell, I guess.
Thank you so much. Yes, in a very big nutshell. Right now, I am so curious to know the story of Ala Amanjot, because we grew up in quite similar areas. So please, let's welcome her back to the stage. You muted.
Sorry. Yeah, it's just humbling to hear the stories of people and just remind myself where I was, not that long ago. So, what a big leap we all done. So, I was born in Soviet bloc in one of the, power of me, huh? in Azerbaijan, one of the republics. There were 15 republics, and a country that endured decades of oppression. So growing up in such an environment shaped many of my behaviors, deeply influenced by what my ancestors experienced. So there was a history that contributed to my struggles with victim mentality, where I often felt that there was just no way out. I believed others were to blame, and I felt powerless over my own circumstances. So my ancestors were stripped of their wealth, forced to conform, and some were even sent to Siberia. And that happened like 1700s, 1800s. So there were like a very steady flow of oppression in my ancestral line. One of my great grandmothers, who was once very wealthy, had to trade her fine jewelry for pieces of bread just to survive during the war. I was exploited by my husband, his parents, and his sister, who ran his own business in England. Later on, when I came to UK to study, I've met this guy and married him later on. But he exploited me well. And despite working full time from Monday to Saturday, I was paid only about £300 a month, that was. So I wasn't receiving child benefits after my son was born. Our son was born. I wasn't receiving any maternity pay. I didn't even know such things existed. So my then husband kept it from me, and he continuously complained how we were short of money. So I wasn't allowed to make friends because I was married. So when you're married, you're not supposed to have friends, apparently. And just after 3 months after giving birth, I was pushed back into work. So I had to bring my very young son with me, keeping him in playpen on the cold floor whilst I worked. So it was incredibly difficult and isolating experience. But I've accepted it because I believed that English people wouldn't do bad things. Just because I came from the not such a wealthy country, or maybe not a civilized country, or like a third world country, I thought, okay, England is civilized, people are better, they know what they're doing. That was just such a bad misconception. So this assumption made it even harder for me to recognize and challenge the exploitation that I was personally facing. So yes, stay for more.
Thank you so much, Ala. I'm just truly honored that all of you decided to be so open and vulnerable and share the stories of your traumas with us. Thank you so much for that. And right, so next guest to share his story is gonna be Cam. Let's welcome back Cam.
All right. So as I mentioned, my trauma runs deep and it has many layers. And as I said, I come from a very poor part of a very poor country. And so things are really rough. And then the religious trauma, and added to that, the child that I had in my home, which was essentially extremely violent. It was like walking on eggshells, and it was hard to know who was going to explode. But again, more importantly, the thing that added fuel to the fire was the sensitivity I had to processed foods and the challenges it created. And when I try to describe, what it was like with my thoughts racing and emotions cycling very intensely, people will say, "Oh, was it ADD?" And I would say, "No, it was much more severe than that." And if people would say, "Was it bipolar?" And I'm like, "No, I wish it were only that simple." In fact, it felt like I was gonna spontaneously combust, but the tragedy of it was that I never did. So, and because, what I was going through had a lot to do with mental emotional condition, it put me in a deeper state of victimhood because I thought, well, I can't get out of this. It's an actual, mental and emotional challenge that's holding me back, and there was something I could do about it. And so that really kind of put me into a very deep state of victimhood.
Thank you so much, Cam. Right, now it all started somewhere, right? So we're going to rewind to childhood for a minute, and um, I'm gonna ask each of you, how do you think your childhood has had an impact on you finding yourselves in a victim mentality? Because for me, growing up in a dysfunctional family, I received victim mentality on mindset on a golden plate, and yeah, it wasn't until a few years ago when I was stuck in one. I'm so sorry. Before we do that, we need to ask Elsa for to share with us her story of trauma. I'm so sorry. I've been I'm already in the future, but yeah, let's stop. Let's reflect, and Elsa, please share with us your story of your trauma. And you are muted as well.
Okay, thank you. That's perfect, Aga. Thank you. Yeah, so I will start from the time when I immigrated to Ireland. It was 2009. I was welcomed from both my brothers. They bought me one-way ticket because I was recovering from a very toxic marriage and basically having a miscarriage and having so much physical and verbal abuse. So it was it just wasn't, I wasn't able to stay anymore in Latvia because the place was so painful for me there. Okay, so when I arrived to Ireland, it was, yeah, I was so much so much of fear, so much my heart was broken in pieces. Okay, and yeah, so it was amazing, but basically 10 years ago, what happened, one of my brothers, my cousin basically, but we spent all our childhood together and we grew up together. He was my best friend. When I came to Ireland, I was able to share my stories and everything, and 10 years ago I lost him. Okay, I lost the person who helped me to recovery from my own trauma and how it felt. There's no words how it felt. Okay, it was so painful. My heart was absolutely broken. I felt the universe took something again from me away, and there is no words to describe that time how it was, because I was just going out of that past and all these kind of things. I met already my fiance that we are living together now, and he's amazing rock to me. And yeah, but then basically that's what I was blaming. Universe took my brother. They took part of my heart. So it was so painful. And yeah, and then again, as I was reflecting to back when I came to Ireland, it was very hard for me first with, because my English wasn't great. So, but I was numbing myself with antidepressants and of course alcohol, because I wasn't able to feel. I didn't want to feel. It was so much pain. It was so much, how would I say, not even willingness to live on this earth, not to be here. But something in my head always told me, keep going, you are meant for more. I actually thought I'm losing it, but I had this voice constantly going in my mind. And I was actually afraid to share with someone around that time, because I was so broken. And I thought if I would say that to people, they will start thinking, oh my God, she's really losing it. But there was always that voice, keep going, there is something meant for you more. So yeah, that's very shortly my story. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So now let's rewind again to that moment, and now rewind to your childhood as well. So, right, I would love to know how each of your childhoods impacted you finding yourselves in that victim mentality, starting with Amanda.
Hi, thank you. So, losing my parents really young, it left me sort of without an anchor in my life. I had very good parents, but this left me vulnerable to unhealthy relationships. And in that out of, and because I hadn't learned to trust myself. And so you get caught up in surviving. Other people are going to give it to you, because of course my parents had always given it to me. They've given me this validation and my love. So this is how you can get stuck in these cycles. So yeah, those early days left me just bereft, really, not knowing what to do. So yeah, I fell into this victim mentality very easily, and I believe that life happened to me and I wasn't in control of it until a little while later.
Thank you, Amanda. Right, let's hear it from JP now.
I mean, yeah, my childhood played a big part in starting it, but not being aware of it later on. I continued to let it snowball and let it get worse and worse and worse. My childhood was a fairly disconnected emotionally, household. Like she had said earlier, I sort of grew up with the forgotten child syndrome, the middle child syndrome, however you want to call it. I didn't demand a lot of attention, but I also didn't make a lot of waves. And in my family, you got recognition for negative reinforcements more so than positive reinforcements. So if you didn't cause big stirs, you just didn't get any attention. And then on top of that, it was an emotionally disconnected place. So then it, low self-esteem, low self-worth, negative self-talk that just kept growing, because obviously if you have low self-esteem, low self-worth, you're not, confident in picking partners, healthy relationships, what is good mentally for you, what's not good mentally for you. It's hard to set and work towards goals that are achievable, because why even try if you're just going to fail, if nobody's going to care, if nothing's going to happen, nothing ever works out for me and all these things. And so then it became, later in my teen years, it became I don't like feeling like this, so I'll numb myself and drink more. And then when I started getting in trouble for drinking, then my parents took note and started giving me attention. And so then that was the only way to get attention, which, kept snowballing.
Absolutely, that's understandable. Okay, so now, Ala Amanjot, please do share with us about your childhood experience.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't necessarily a single event like from my childhood, as I feel, but rather the environment in which I was raised, like I know others have shared as well. And it was shaped by the experiences of many generations before me. So it was layering upon layering. It was like multi-layered cake. I grew up with a constant sense of uncertainty as my baseline. I understood that I could go to bed one night with a certain status, wealth, or stability, and by morning, everything could change. So there was just no stability in my day to day whatsoever. And so my savings could be scrutinized or even taken away by government or by somebody else. My status could suddenly become a liability, or a family member could fall out of favor, and that would put everything and everyone at risk who even come and talk to that person in the past week or whatever. So this instability deeply influenced my not only outlook on life, but what my baseline was and my expectations of how good I could get basically in this life. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So now let's hear from Cam.
All right, well, because of everything I went through, I don't know why or how, but at a certain point, my brain, it came to this conclusion that the world was this big, happy community where everyone was friends, liked, and took care of each other, and I wasn't part of it. I was an outcast, and everyone knew it, but above all, I knew it as well. As a result, I thought there was a level of success I could never achieve and a level of access I could never have. Not only that, but I would have to work harder than others, and even then, my success would be limited. And I felt like a victim since I was an outcast. I was alone and on my own, and no one to really rely on and or take care of me. So anything, so anytime things didn't go well, I felt like I was the only one with the problem, the only one struggling, or the only one to have to deal with this. And because of this victim attitude, I could never understand the pain of another person because mine was always greater. So, more or less, this is kind of how my challenges led to my victim mentality.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And now, again, last but not least, let's hear it from Elsa.
So as a child, I always felt very different than other kids, and I don't know why. But when I started to have my healing journey in my 30s, so I started to understand how it impact me. So basically, when I was a little girl, I was very artistic. I loved dance and I loved art and I loved music, but yeah, it's and then there was sudden accident. I was in a car crash, so I was in hospital for a month and more, and I wasn't able to go back to my creative stuff as a little kid. And then I was afraid to go back because the children group that already was there, they already kind of are the next level, and I was afraid, oh, I will be behind them. So then I kind of lost myself as a little girl. And I never been great in maths in school, or there was always smarter kids, but I was great in my own things, which I'd say 30, 35 years ago, teachers didn't look at that. They just wanted to be expected from you everything to be good at it. Okay. And same as parents. But yeah, and then I felt that being pushed away from other kids who've been very good in other grades and maths and all those things. So I really felt so different, and I really felt disconnected from other children, and that led me in my teenager age to become a rebel. And that's the only one way how I was getting connection with other kids. Okay, because I wasn't seen, I wasn't being great at school, I lost my creative part. I didn't knew how to get back. But then when I became a little bit a rebel, so I started to get attention of other people. Okay, so that's what was missing, because as you all know, we come to earth to avoid any rejection and to have connection. Okay, and that's always comes from the childhood. So yeah, and then of course when I was a teenager, there was some relationships. I remember one of my first boyfriends, and his parents were a little bit higher than mine. So and there was this kind of pushed away again. Oh, so she's only Elsa. Her mom is only a teacher. And things like that. And of course, that impacted me so badly. So I really felt again rejected. So there was so many scars from the childhood, like based on each other. So that built that kind of. I lost my self worth basically. I didn't know who I was. I lost my identity during my childhood, really, and especially teenager age. Okay, and then that's why I probably attracted this toxic marriage when I married the wrong person. I was only 19. Okay, so and my only biggest wish was just to be loved and to share my love. But obviously, because what was going on in my mind, I was attracting a wrong person, a wrong circumstances in my life. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for sharing your childhood experience with us all. I would love to highlight that victim mentality doesn't care about your background or status. It can sneak into your life and poison you without any warning. All of my guests are from different parts of the world and they've experienced different things growing up, yet each of them has found themselves in a victim mentality at some point in their journeys. Now, after a short commercial break, we are back with the empowerment part of today's show. We're gonna find out what was a turning point for each of my guests and what helped them overcome their victim mentality. So, stay with us. In 2 minutes, we are back right after these messages from our sponsors. Welcome back to Beyond Victimhood, Stories of Survival and Empowerment, a show where we dive deep into victim mentality and how to overcome it. So, now at this point, we have learned what our guests have survived and how their childhood experiences impacted their victim mentality mindset. And now we're going to focus on a turning point. So, let's hear from Amanda. What was a turning point in your journey and what helped you overcome victim mentality?
Thanks. So it was a variety. So it was during my second bout of cancer when I was going through that. My ex-husband was narcissistic and he told me I was being a cancer diva, and stopped me from talking about my cancer. And it was during this particular moment in time that I thought, I am not talking about it at all. So I knew that he was lying to me. And there was one particular moment I needed to go to an appointment, and I needed for some help with our children. And it was at this point he said, "You're always talking about it." And I timed myself. I hadn't talked about it for nearly a month. And it was at this moment I thought there was a moment of all the pennies dropping, like the control, the manipulation. It wasn't true. So I sought help from a cancer charity local to here, and they gave me some help, some meditations I went through. And it was during those meditations where they helped me to warm my hands and my feet through meditation, and with him saying the things he was doing. So it's a lot at the same time. I thought, there is more than this. And this is exactly this was the moment I said, I'm leaving, I'm done, and I'm going to start relying on me.
Thank you, Amanda. Now let's hear from JP.
Oh, for me, the turning point was not wanting to continue generational curses to my daughter that had been passed down to my parents, from their parents, from their parents. And that consisted of me wanting to change the reality that I was in and, being more optimistic and not hiding from the grief of, my dad or the relationship, or hiding from the fact that I'm a single parent, or, comparing myself to other people. So first thing I had to do, the big turning point, was I had to leave my own pity party and acknowledge and accept the life that I had and where I was at in my life, the good, the bad, the mediocre, everything in between. And then the more I started working on my mindset, my outlook, my perception, what my goals were, how I wanted to act and relate to others, and then I'd gotten connected with a grief coach and worked with a grief coach so I could grieve, the loss of a parent plus the loss of the relationship, and then be able to go through that process and accept the reality that I had moving forward. And so, working with somebody else was a big turning point for me.
Thank you so much. And next one to share her turning point and what helped her overcome victim mentality is Ala Amanjot.
Thank you. Yeah, like similarly to others, it's the penny drop moment, and actually you can do it every day. You can question your existence, yourself, your environment. Is it actually good enough for me? Like, is that what I want? Is that my dream? Like, and which I absolutely love, because once I have had my pink shaded glasses removed, I was like, hold on a minute. Like, there's so much out there. you know, I have, yeah, my turning point was there was somebody, my client came, and because she was from my culture, she spoke Russian, and because nobody else could understand, she asked me some like very sensible questions. She's like, why are you charging so little? Or why is this? Or why is that? And these questions I started to ask myself later on, and I was like, yeah, why? And then I realized that the whole environment was just toxic. And I started to asking questions for which made people around me in my family like really like get their backs up, and not answering me. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. They're either hiding from me something, or not sharing, or they just don't know. And so I was then trying to get the answers out there. So, you know, I realized that the life and environment was just not adequate, not for me, not for my son, and the standard, it wasn't up to standard that it should be, say, in UK, for example. Yeah. So this awakening kind of pushed me to reevaluate everything. And the great juice in this, the great nectar, is that you can take this and you can do this every single day, because we change, things change, and our dreams change. And nobody says like we can't dream big. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing this. Right, so now let's hear from Cam. What has helped you? You muted.
The turning point for me was really learning about a concept called the drama triangle. It was a concept developed in the 1960s by a doctor named Dr. Cartman. And it more or less said that when we're in conflict, we tend to fall into one of three main roles: the persecutor, the rescuer, and the victim. And as I mentioned, victim is that role that feels helpless and hopeless and powerless and oppressed. And because we feel that way, we think we don't really have much say in our life and we're at the mercy of people and events. And when I learned that my behavior was actually a response, that it was something that I was falling into rather than something I was choosing, or rather the reality of the situation, because with victimhood, it can feel like when we're in these feelings of despair and loss of hope, it can feel like it's actually the reality of the situation, or it's what's really going on, and there really is no hope. But when I learned that it was a response or like an emotional thing my brain was making me feel, it was a big shift for me. And so when I would fall into victimhood, I could see there was another option, another way of responding, another way of thinking. And it's not always easy to pull myself out of that response. And the victim part of me really wants to act that out and play that out. But I know now that I can choose a different response. So what was really helpful, and there were many things, but the biggest was understanding this concept of the drama triangle and how we can automatically fall into these roles, and to catch yourself when you're in that role and pull yourself out. And when a person can do that, it makes moving through life so much easier.
That's right, thank you so much. And let's hear it from our lovely Elsa now.
Okay, so this is my favorite part that I love talking about with everyone. So my turning point coming out from the victimhood was that I understood that all my past is actually a big, massive toolbox bag that I have and I carry with me to help others. So as I mentioned before, 10 years ago, I lost my loving brother, and it was just big trauma. And I was like, okay, life is just very hard. But anyway, so one of my good friends, she said, you should go to Medium. And I was like, okay. And I never heard about what's Medium, what's that. But I actually did went because I wanted to find the connection with the spirit, and especially with the spirit of my brother. who passed away. And when I went to the medium, so it was actually mind blowing. Okay, so he was able to describe all the childhood. He was able to give me those amazing messages from the other side, okay, angelic world, and that really started to change my life. So I was actually getting more hungry to become medium myself, and that's how I started to study mediumship, became a psychic medium. And when I created this amazing relationship with spirit world, with angelic world, I've been guided to become a therapist, hypnotherapist, past life regression therapist. And then this amazing thing happened, right? Which I'm saying amazing now. I used to work as a hairdresser for so many years, and I absolutely loved my work. I always loved around people because I found it's kind of healing me, talking with people, and maybe giving them some nice advices or something. But yeah, I was doing this parallel was my hairdressing job, studying all those things, and yeah, and then of course I was getting all those messages from the spirit world, and again this voice in my mind was constantly there: keep going, you are meant for more. And there was so many times when I want to give up, and I was like, okay, this is crazy, and some people look at you strange, you talk with dead people, and but that never stopped me. But a couple of years ago, I started to have from nowhere actually came in my body arthritis. So I had a very sore wrist, and I couldn't stand on my legs. My ankles were swelling. So and again I start to kind of fall back again in that victimhood. Okay, so I was like, okay, why me? What's going on? I'm just out of this. I'm just kind of getting on my feet, and like, oh, what's going on? And then, of course, when I went in those deeper states of meditation and more connection with the spirit world, they were telling me, Elsa, you are going wrong direction. You should heal other people. And then I got it. Then my turning point, like, oh, wow, okay. And then every time spirit sends me, and of course, meditation is a big part of my life. I meditate every day. I connect with spirit world every day because they are so close to my heart. They are actually always around me. And they send always people to me that need help exactly from me. And from my own experience, from my past, from my all these traumas, every time when I have those intake calls with my clients, I already see what I need to do, what's going on there. And that's why I'm saying I'm calling myself unique soul that is doing those therapies guided by spirit through me. And they are channeling that amazing power that how can I help them? And now I understand, okay, I have to step out from the hairdressing because that was on my way. I couldn't do both. It was too overwhelming for me. I was like a vegetable coming back from work, 5, 6 days working and standing on my feet, and I didn't have time to kind of go deeper in that healing area. So, and basically the arthritis was stopping me to from the wrong direction where I was going. And of course, doctors told me you need to take this medication, because otherwise you won't be able to walk and your bones will twist and turn around. No, the minute I stopped working as a hairdresser, this all went away. And from then, I have this strong trust in my heart, amazing belief in spirit world, in my power, and that's when I really took my power back. And as I say, this amazing toolbox that I carry, now I understand that life is happening for me, not to me. So it's actually the gift, my worst times, the dark night of the soul that I went through from so many years. Actually, this is a reward that I'm getting now. And I just feel so blessed, and it's just the most amazing thing that happened to me when these glasses are away from your eyes and when you really see everything. Oh wow, world actually is amazing. Life is amazing. And like one of my great friends, she always says, life is easy, and life is easy. It's only hard how we make it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, don't you all have the most incredible stories of overcoming victim mentality? I already feel so empowered, but there is more, okay? So we're moving to our final stage of today's show, and we're going to end on a high note by bringing you messages of empowerment from our panelists. Before we do that, though, I've got something to share with you. If you ever find yourself blaming others for your pain or waiting for your savior to magically rescue you. Please remember that you are a powerful being who is capable of achieving anything you put your mind to. And it's only you that can save yourself. You are the only person who can change the trajectory of your life once you take responsibility for it. And now let's hear from all today's guests. What is their message of empowerment? Amanda.
Hi. So for me, my overarching message is your past does not define you. Your hardships that you have faced, it does not define you. You have the power to claim your life back. You have the power to start setting boundaries wherever you may need those boundaries, physical ones, mental ones, emotional ones. And also you have the possibility to start aligning your life with your values. That healing, whatever, there's some phenomenal stories that we've shared here this evening with everybody. And everybody has healed. The journey towards healing is a different point for everybody, but nevertheless, we are all healed. It is an ongoing journey. It's not one that's finished. And even for people who have not been through such hardships, healing from small things, it's we evolve through the path of life. So no matter how dark you feel your life is, and no matter how far you feel you will, have hope that you can get out of it, and you don't have to do it alone. There's so many people around you that you can reach out to that can love you and help and bring you up, and so you can start to live a life in alignment with your values and in alignment with what's needed for you. So there's hope for you, for everybody. Believe me, there is.
JP?
Mostly, I would say the same thing that I say to a lot of, the people that I talk to in the co-parenting type realm. The more aware that you can get, and the more that the more awareness you have in every aspect of your life, the easier it is to leave your pity party, to let go of your past, to let go of grief, to let go of relationships, to let go of negative thought processes, negative thinking patterns, the woe is me, poor me. The more awareness you have, the more intentional you can be. The more intentional you can be, the easier things get, because you're not driving. You have a GPS with intention and awareness. You know where you're going, the steps you need to take to get there. You can map out every aspect of your life and map out all of these things with the pit stops and the turns and all the things that you need, rather than driving in circles trying to figure out where you are. And so, the more that you can become aware through meditation, mindfulness, me time, knowing your triggers, knowing your the things that burn you out. If you need, self-care days, then take self-care days. But becoming aware of these things is probably one of the more important things that I could tell everybody.
Hi. Yes, I agree about self-awareness. Self-awareness is the key. But actually, we do need to learn this. And self-awareness, without self-awareness, we cannot fully enter the age of Aquarius that we are all in. And I'm not going to bore you with that. But, for the self-empowerment and coming out of victim mentality, just take a quiet 5 minutes for yourself. I mean, if you have to go to toilet and close the door, on everyone else, on everything else, do that. And be in a toilet, doesn't matter. But just take this 5 minutes and just ask yourself these questions. Is this how I want my life to be? Is this how I want my health to be? Is this how I want my relationships to be? You know? So this questioning yourself and questioning the way you are in this world is very, very powerful. My teacher said once that suffering is optional. So when we take responsibility of our own life, we are the driver of the car. We decide where we steer and where we go, where we pause, when we slam the brake, and when we put the push down on the gas. So there's loads of tools in the world that you can do. You can reach out to people, you can speak to somebody you trust. And I mean, I've got some little reels on my channel to help you in different situations, especially coming up to Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year. So yeah, most importantly, take responsibility for your life and the outcomes you desire, because you have the power to shape your future and make it as good as it can be.
All right, thank you for that. And so I'm a mental performance expert, and I've written a dozen books in the area of mental performance and personal mastery. One of the things I've learned about the brain is that it can only have a one thought and awareness at a time. It can have only one dialogue running through its head. So when we fall into victimhood or drama, like, I can't believe this happened, I'm so mad, how could she? Or why me? Our brain can't run any solutions or a way out. It's like there's no room for any other thought to enter. And so it helps to stop the drama so the brain can run answers and solutions. And what you'll find is that the solutions can often be simple and easy, but we can't see it because we're caught in the victim. So next time a person finds themselves in a world of victim, it helps to just pause and shift your focus. For example, if someone doesn't pick you up and when they say they will, it's easy to fall into victim and go down the line of thinking that no one's ever there, I have no one to rely on. But when you pull yourself out, you realize, hey, I can just call an Uber. Or if things don't go your way, it's easy to fall into a thinking that I worked so hard on this and nothing goes my way. But when you pull yourself out of that, you can figure out what else you can do to make things work. So it really helps to let go of the fact that your thinking can really shape how you respond. And stepping out of that thinking can clear the fog and help you see answers so there's no need for drama. And another thing that I want to mention is that I teach a concept called internal resistance. That our brain, there's a part of our brain designed to hold us back, and is actively working to hold us back. It's hard to imagine, but we have a part of us that is actively trying to keep us from growing and making progress. And when our brain holds us back, it doesn't tell us that it's holding us back. It uses a lot of manipulative tricks. And one of the tricks is that it'll make us fall into victimhood. Because, like I said, once we fall into victimhood, our brain can't think of solutions or a way out or a better way. We just get caught in this state. And as long as we're caught in this state, we're not moving forward. And as long as we're not moving forward, our brain has won in holding us back. So when we're falling into victimhood, it really helps to know that what is a part of me trying to stop me from? What is a part of me keeping me from doing? And when we can realize that and move ourselves out of the victimhood, magically our brain will start coming up with solutions. And like I said, oftentimes the solutions can be simple and easy. We just don't see it at the moment because of the drama. So that would be the two advice that I've offered that could really help somebody move past victimhood quite easily.
It's amazing. Yeah. So my thing would be to share with everyone. Remember, guys, that we are the souls that live in this body. You are not your hand. You are not your torso. You are not your head. You are the soul that lives in the body. We all come to Earth with something unique to give this world. Okay, we all have gifts, and everyone has different gifts. So always remember, no matter what happens in your life, no matter how hard circumstances could be, universe has a bigger picture behind it all. Always believe that there is always light in the end of the tunnel, always. And always remember that your hardest times are your best times. They are your best friends. They are making you stronger. They are making who you are, who you need to be. Because when we wouldn't know what's bad, we wouldn't be appreciated for what's good. So believe in yourself, trust yourself, and just be authentic. Thank you.
Now, thank you all so much for sharing these powerful messages of empowerment. And I hope it gave you all hope and assurance that no matter how difficult life might be at the moment, you will always come out of it stronger. And as we're getting closer to the end of the show, I would love to hear from each of you. What do you currently do and how we can all find you and connect with you? Amanda.
Hello. So, yeah, I'm now a certified and accredited resilience life coach, and I help people overcome multiple traumas. So you can contact me either from amandasbeyondcoaching.com, as you can see at the bottom of the screen there. I also have a Facebook business page with exactly the same name. And I do also have a private group, and I often do free workshops, but you can access the group from the business page. Thank you.
Thank you, JP.
I am a relationship coach, mostly with co-parenting relationships, parenting realm, and work with people who are trying to get to a more collaborative place in, with the other parent as far as raising the kids and not, sabotaging your kids' childhoods by your own pettiness and back and forth and a lot of these things, which there's a lot of victim mentality when you get into the co-parenting space, because each side usually wants to be the one who was wronged because they're mad at the other side and all those things. And Instagram is the best place to connect with me and find me. It's I think it's at the bottom of the screen, but it's just my name, JPMRSH. And, if anybody has anything or any questions or concerns or things going on in their, co-parenting relationship, feel free to shoot me a message and I try to respond to everybody.
Awesome. Now, Ala, can you please share with us how we can find you?
Yes. I actually do every day Kundalini yoga and meditation. You can do as little as 3 minutes and it can change your mental attitude or even the way you feel about things. So, yeah, highly recommend. I've been doing it for 15 years and still going. And I am accredited and international Kundalini yoga teacher and trainer. I train teachers as well. So my Instagram is at the bottom, Amanjot Core 108, and you can get my link tree from that account. Otherwise, I'm online, so you can, if you put Ala Amanjot, you will find me on Facebook, and there's a TikTok as well. But anyway, so you can do as little as 3 minutes and you can get in a better space. So good luck everyone, and thank you. It's been amazing being part of this. Thank you, Aga. Thank you, Dr. Lauren.
Thank you so much. Come.
Yes, thanks again. So now I focus on a topic that's rarely getting much attention. And it answers a question that I had my whole life, which is, why is it if I want to do something, I know what to do, I know how to do it, and I have the motivation and desire to do it, but for one reason or another, I can't or don't do it? And as I mentioned, there's a part of our brain that is designed to hold us back, and it's actively working to hold us back. And I call this part resistance. And it's a brick wall that we hit anytime that we want to do something, but we can't, no matter how much we want to do it. And there's many reasons why resistance comes up. And so now my focus is helping people overcome their resistance to be able to do more, have more, and be more in life. And I've got a very special program that I put together that came from knowledge I gained from traveling to over 100 countries, and it's called Conquer Your Internal Resistance to Achieve Your Next Goal. And people can find that at camknight.com. That's KAMKNIGHT.com. And if anyone has any questions or wants to get more information, they can just reach me at cam@camknight.com.
Thank you. And lastly, Elsa.
So I am rapid transformational therapist. I'm specializing to actually healing childhood trauma and deep trauma, which all the beliefs are built in our mindset from age 0 to 7. So that's mostly where it's coming from. So I changed those beliefs. So I'm also a past life regression therapist, which I absolutely love, and sometimes I combine them together. And I'm also a psychic medium. So, and yeah, as I said, basically what I do, I change people's lives, and I try to, not I try, but I actually help them to become the best versions of themselves. So my email is actually just there. So I'm very I'm working very individual. So I have an intake form that I send to my client, and they fill it in. It basically takes a few minutes, and it's just, I'm always trying to find the right fit. Am I be perfect therapist for my client, and is my client would be actually right fit for me as well. So because there need to be that connection. So, and I love to have that connection. And you also can find me on Facebook, transformational therapist Elsa Stephanie. So yeah, but simply just by giving me email, so I'll be happy out to reach out back. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to each and every one of you for being so open and vulnerable and sharing your inspiring stories with us. And whoever has watched us, to each and every one of you, thank you so much for watching. To Dr. Lauren and the whole production team at Trajectory TV. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for this opportunity to host this show, and I hope it has left you all feeling empowered and inspired to change your lives for better. And always remember, if we could do it, so can you. Until next time!